to the Untold History Channel. My name is Ron Partain, and I am joined, as I normally am monthly, by the doctor himself, Dr. Jim Willie. Heavy on the doctor. Last month was a little bit of a crazy time for me. My mom actually had a stroke, and Jim actually reached out to me, but I didn't see the email. So my apologies there, Jimbo. I was not ignoring you. So,
yeah, I understand.
but
That's a family crisis.
yeah, it has been life changing in many respects. So, but some good, some bad, obviously. But nevertheless, as I say, the show must go on, and there's quite a show out there. And guys, I'm gonna reiterate this. I do this from time to time that Jim and I speak usually fairly frequently, and when we do, we just go. And this is going to be much more conversational than it is me asking him questions and then him answering them, although that will transpire. So, but we will both be participating in this conversation. It is not basically a one-way thing. So
That's fine by me, Ron.
getting that out in the open ahead of time, because so many people get pissed off at me if I even remotely try to not interrupt, but sometimes, join. Thank you. And sometimes you barely come up for air. So it's like I try to like time when I'm going to say something. So anyway, that is out of the way. And we are, as you said, that there is no shortage of stuff going on, happening out there.
Ron, we're seeing history being made. There's no doubt about such a claim. We're seeing the European Union fall apart. We're seeing the Democratic Party fall apart, even though they won the mayor race in New York. So what? A Ugandan won, and his primary constituency is illegal immigrants. So, yep. I mean, what a gold star that is for the Democrat Party. Meanwhile, we got sanctuary states and sanctuary cities that are involved in direct treason. We have a rejection of the king dollar internationally. We have a transformation going on for the digital financial system. We have stable coins coming into existence, and I think Tether, in a very unusual position of being the beneficiary of funny money creation, and with their funny money, they're buying gold to back up their funny money creation. Oh my gosh, this is so wacky. And now we got a revolution in England. I mean, this is beyond normal. This is like 3 or 4 standard deviations away from normal on the global scene. I'm not sure where you want to focus today, but I sure love talking about XRP, and I was working on this. So here we are.
Hey,
there's a lot of fraud out there. They're stealing our content.
I know they are.
I've challenged 2 so far. I said, what was the name of my doctoral advisor at Carnegie Mellon? What was the name of my last manager at Staples? What was the name of the idiot for my first quality control manager at Digital Equipment Corporation in 1980? If you can't answer these things, you ain't me. So get off this.
Yeah. I completely understand. I've come to realize that when people take the content that you and I create and they upload it for themselves, they can try to conceal it all they want, but at the end of the day, it's theft. But there's, I can't control it.
Ron, there's something that's interesting. If they say this is a platform to follow Jim Willie's work, or to discuss some of the forecasts that he has out there, or to engage in a conversation in a big room with some of the analytic points that we make. That's fine. But when they say, I'm Jim Willie and let me give you some advice, that's where you
okay.
cross
So
the
yeah,
line.
I didn't realize that that's what you were talking about. So,
Oh, I
yeah,
don't mind so much taking content, because people know that it's from the golden-jackass.com. It's indirect promotion. All right, enough.
yep.
You can't pretend to be me. There's only one me. You know what's really funny? Very few people can imitate the way I talk, because I talk quickly. I
You're,
talk with density. I make
yeah.
big points. I don't put people to sleep. People can listen to me for an hour and a quarter and stay, attention. But, I really think there's a lot of fraud, and the last 30 years has brought about a tremendous degradation of honesty and integrity in our entire country.
Right. I agree with that. Did you see the document that came out on the White House website about the national security strategy for 2025?
No,
Did you see that document? Yeah, it was
no.
really interesting. Basically, just a few minor points. They talked about Trump was going to reinstill the Monroe Doctrine, and with a Trump corollary is what he called it, and that essentially was. I view the Trump. So the Monroe Doctrine was really designed more for um, European um, involvement in the Western Hemisphere, but um, I view the Trump corollary as a basically incorporation of China into the Monroe Doctrine. So
I don't care about stuff like that. What I care about is Venezuela. What's going on there?
well, I think that's one of the things that he was talking about, that they're not going to allow.
Well, that's not
Uh,
China.
well,
China
who is
doesn't enter that discussion unless you're talking about fentanyl,
okay?
which maybe is in the conversation. But I got some clients who think that Trump has gone way over the line in seizing and destroying fast-moving boats going 55 miles an hour, twin Mercury or Johnson engine, carrying maybe half a ton of cocaine or amphetamines or both. Yeah, blast them. But they're giving them warning. Okay, these snowflakes have invaded the patriotic crowd. I'm telling people, hey, look, you don't know what Venezuela is. It is the Ukraine of our hemisphere.
That's exactly how I refer to it.
It's full of narcotics. It's full of child trafficking. It's full of bioweapons. It's full of some very unusual things. Microbe invasion of U.S. farmland. They're trying to wreck the U.S. farmland. And then we got the emptying of the prisons, the Tren de Aragua, okay, with a payoff from the Biden show to the Maduro regime in Venezuela. Okay, I don't wish to focus too much on the politics, but honestly, people need to get a grip. Venezuela is a very serious rogue nation, narco state, and it needs to be ripped apart. It needs to be dismantled. It needs to be wrecked. And whatever it takes, Trump has let it be known now implicitly that if you've got a tanker of Venezuelan oil, we're gonna seize it, because they're running drugs and they're running weapons on board.
And people.
Yeah, I don't know much about the people. They talked about how there were a dozen kids, but a dozen is not child trafficking. A dozen could be, little kids from friends of the family of the operating crew. I don't know. If there are 1,000 kids, yeah. If they're 12, no. You can't. I don't jump to that.
I understand the distinction.
Yeah. They're blocking. They're whiting out this. They're whiting it out. So I'm giving them a moving target. screw you.
Yeah.
I've confronted.
Well, that's why I put it in. That's why I put it in big letters right underneath our name.
Yeah. Well, they can block that out too.
I know.
They can block out anything that's fixed.
I
What they're doing
100%.
is they're just taking the me part. Oh my goodness.
Maybe next time what I'll do is I'll put a you know what, here I'm going to play with something real quick. But go ahead.
Ron, I want to talk about XRP.
Okay.
Silver and XRP. Silver has officially become unobtainium. There's really no more silver. There was a big event on Wednesday and Friday of Thanksgiving week. There was a shutdown. You know, I have a joke. They say that there was an air conditioning issue. No, I say there was a sewage backup issue. There was human sewage all over the floor. And if you look closely, you'll see price suppression documents in the sewage. Okay, that's one thing. JP Morgan withdrew, I believe, I'm going by memory, and there's a lot of numbers that are flying through my head all the time. I believe it was 24 million ounces of silver that JP Morgan withdrew from the market when they shut it down. And now that is worth $1 billion. No. $100 million more. $100 million more.
Wow.
Because we're $5, $6 higher. So that's a smooth move. That's a good business move for a corrupt institution. And I got to say that JP Morgan Chase is probably the number one bank that does chargebacks for the newsletter. Number one. Not only are they number one, but I had a couple of clients say, Jim, I didn't start that chargeback. That was done by Chase all by themselves. I didn't ask that. I didn't want that. And I said, well, you're going to have to fight to quit it, to stop it. I'm just going to cancel it, make a new order. Anyway, it's just amazing. Over half the chargebacks are Citigroup and JP Morgan. Chase. And I've got private clients. I got clients who complained to me that they had their accounts shut down by Chase, business accounts, just terrible abuse. And, they're like king of the hill. They could do whatever they want. And if they get fined, which they have, they call it a cost of doing business. What's it up to now? $250 billion in the last 25 years for fines and penalties? Yeah. Okay. Cost of doing business. Cost of doing criminal business. I've decided that I'm going to be a little bit more genteel when I talk about trafficking issues, but we've got to pay attention to money laundering. Money laundering can be from many different sources. It could just be dark money sources. It could be money coming out from, 20 years of hibernation, but it could also be from trafficking. We hear dark pools a lot. And I have no idea what the dark pools are. I believe that half of Bitcoin's rise in the last 3 or 4 years has been from dark money.
Well, and you talked about Tether. I think that Tether has a significant role in that.
That could be what I'm hearing. And this is from one military source, but a number of 2 or 3 other really smart clients. When the BRICS dump a big batch of treasury bonds, the U.S. government is obliged to pick them up because we're the issuer. But what they're doing is they're printing money, they're buying Tether, they back it up with Bitcoin, and they hand the Tether to the institution or like a central bank that dumps the billions of treasury bonds. So how is the U.S. government paying the sellers of treasury bonds? Is printed money by way of Tether and a big reflection and echo off Bitcoin. And what is Tether doing with all of their interest that they're earning from treasury bonds? They're buying gold. Oh my gosh. We got a fraudulent stable coin of Tether that's a backstop for paying BRICS nation dumping treasury bonds. And they're a stable coin in the system. This is just an accident waiting to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. But Tether's going to take a hit. And it looks like it's going to be softened by their gold holdings. They're the biggest non-sovereign buyer of gold in the last 2 years. I had a chart in golden-jackass.com newsletter, the Hat Trick Letter newsletter. Pardon me. I did some bike riding this morning and I got a little bit of residue. I love my bike. I tell you, I'd lose my mind if it weren't for my bike. When I'm crazy and I'm stressed out and, I got another fire to pay the bill for, or another uterus surgery to pay the bill for, or another title fraud to pay the bill for, I go out for a ride. I go around a certain college campus. It's 2 miles. And I'm renewed when I get back. The bicycle is therapy. But Ron, what's going on right now, this is my view and I'm not alone. XRP is at the center of a global financial upgrade to digital finance. XRP is at the center. Ripple is in the commander's seat for this paradigm shift. We're seeing history being made right now. And what I find amazing is that no one's going to want to wait for round 2. No financial firm is going to want to wait to see how it goes for their competitor. No one's going to want to sit around and say, well, I'm a little bit leery of all this. Maybe next year. No, because maybe next year they're obsolete and out of business.
You think? So I heard that the Fed is going to reduce rates, and then they're going to begin. They've relabeled quantitative easing, and they're going to start money printing again on what today, the 12th.
It is so hairy that there might be a challenge of whether Jerome Powell was properly appointed because it was done by auto pen in the Biden office. Okay, this is getting really complicated, entangled. Not only is Jerome Powell possibly an appointee with the auto pen from the Biden office, but that absolute moron cabal DEI appointment, Ketanji Jackson on the Supreme Court. I don't say moron loosely. I've read 4 or 5 of her dissenting opinions, and there's no discussion of constitutional articles or defense.
Well, you saw that Amy Coney Barrett just freaking dismantled her. They basically were laughing at her on at her decisions.
Their opinions.
Her opinion, but it was like an 8 to 1, and they're like, yeah, well, we don't even really consider her arguments as like
they're entertainment. They're a sideshow. They're a joke.
It's not even it doesn't belong in the adult conversation.
I've read 3 or 4 of her. Okay, what they do is you got a 6-3 opinion or a 7 decision or a 7-2 or an 8-1. I hadn't heard about an 8-1. I'm really glad to hear that because that's almost unanimous except for the moron. What they do is they say, all right, 6-3. So the 3, you can get together and you each put it together a little opinion. And it's your dissenting opinion. It's the minority opinion on the ruling. And, sometimes it has some merit, and it just got outvoted. Nothing is black and white, except when it comes to Ketanji, because she's always voting for the cabal and never defends or even mentions a constitutional point. Okay, enough. I'd like to see her removed from her seat on the bench, Supreme Court bench, and Trump will have another appointment. She's a moron. And you know, I heard from one of my contacts that for the last, I don't know, 8-10 months, Ketanji Jackson has been isolated. Nobody really talks to her. No one has lunch with her. No one gives a crap of what she says or what she thinks or what she writes. And you know, it's almost like Amy is saying, I want distance from Ketanji, the cabal vote, the deep state vote, and therefore I'm gravitating toward the conservative patriot camp. And you know, I've been watching Chief Justice Stevens too. He's on the wrong side of quite a few, but lately he's on the right side. I don't know if you're familiar with the Humphreys directive, but that's what's being discussed right now. I know we're getting away from it, XRP, but let me just say that the Humphreys decision is almost as important as the Chevron, the Chevron deference, where agencies were determining taxation. That was thrown out by the court. Great decision. And obviously, Ketanji voted against that decision because it hurts the cabal. She's a cabal defender. The Humphreys directive is different. It says, the vote is to remove that directive and to allow Trump to fire agency and department heads. Executive order to fire. And golly, will he cross a fence and fire judges who are acting in an unconstitutional manner? That's what I want to see.
I don't know if he can, but because I think that is something that's reserved for Congress for
it's the Senate. The 2/3 Senate vote to impeach a judge.
To impeach, right.
2/3 Senate vote. I've looked into this. I've asked some people to check it, and they've gotten back to me, and been helping me with this. But what happens?
That's the importance of the Senate. That's the importance of the Senate.
I know, but what happens to a judge who makes a treasonous decision to release illegal immigrants who go out, commit crimes, larceny, arson, and murder, assault? The judge just let it happen. Okay, this is happening in Illinois. This is happening in California. This is happening, I believe, in Oregon and maybe even New York. Okay, those are the 4 states. Those are the 4 states that Trump needs to get moving on. And you know, get a stronger spine because there's civil war breaking out in 4 states. Oh, I saw the funniest thing this morning. A client wrote to me and said, Jim, you got to check this out. It's a morning scream in Portland, Oregon.
I've seen that. Scream
and yell at Trump.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of 1984, 2 Minutes of Hate. So
2 minutes of hate.
That's exactly what it reminds me of.
I wasn't familiar with that, but
you never seen you're not familiar with 1984 and 2 minutes, like the 2 minutes of hate?
No,
every day in the book 1984, every day what they would do is they'd have where they would stand up and they'd be listening to Big Brother, and then it was 2 minutes of hate, and they got to like scream and rant at the screen.
Freedom of speech.
Exactly. So that was their freedom of speech.
A designated 5-minute period where you can have freedom of speech, and the rest of the time, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I wanted to read this real quick, just because it reinforces what you were talking about. This was the 8-1 decision, and it was basically on the because it was the one where Jackson was the lone dissenter in a case involving limits on judicial power and nationwide injunctions. What Barrett wrote in her opinion, and this is what she actually put this into the opinion. In the majority opinion Barrett authored, she directly rebutted Jackson's dissenting approach, arguing that Jackson's framing decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. Barrett said the dissent was at odds with long-standing precedent in the Constitution, suggesting Jackson's reasoning would expand judicial power beyond proper limits. Barrett also wrote that Jackson's position might imply that any time the government is the defendant, a universal injunction is appropriate, questioning the logic of her argument. It was, yeah, it is. She was not kind to
Imperial
Ketanji.
judicial.
Yeah.
In other words, we can have 200 federal judges to defend the cabal, allow them to commit crimes, allow them to release murderers and assaulters and drug kings. Oh my gosh. You know, we're losing control. We're losing control of the republic. You know, Trump has got to do something with the sanctuary states. Okay, you know, I think the walls are closing in on your California bumpkin idiot, Marxist
100%.
clown, Newsom. And, you know, he issued a piggy video, and boy, did that come back and slam him in the face. You know, there's no leadership in California unless you consider it a criminal organization. I thought there was going to be more action, more movement in some of the missing funds for the homeless. Isn't that like $5 or $7 billion?
Oh no, it's more than that. It was like 25 billion or something like that. It was
25 billion.
They just started the investigation last week, so I mean, it's not
great.
It's not even well, that you're not even including the train to nowhere, the bullet train. So
yeah, how much was that?
Oh, I think that's something.
Maybe that was
I think
5 or
that's
7.
I think that's approaching $1 trillion. It's in the hundreds of billions of dollars.
Are you sure?
Oh, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, let me check.
Hundreds.
I'll double check it. Let me double check here. What is the most?
You know, someone asked me recently, is war is not good for the economy, is it, Jim? And I said, well, if you're the deep state, you're the cabal, war is great for the economy. It brings about, you know, reconstruction funds that are largely stolen by the elite, brings about missile and war material contracts, brings about misery and low frequency pain that the Satanists thrive on. And I had 5 or 6 other things in there. Yeah, war is great for the deep state. And the reconstruction, just never forget this. I learned this with the Iraq Reconstruction Fund because The Voice at that time got a copy of Kissinger taking $2.3 billion from that fund. Kissinger personally ransacking the Iraq Reconstruction Fund. So don't tell me war is good for the economy. That is so ludicrous. Where's the reconstruction of Beirut? Yeah, baby. Where's the reconstruction of what is it, Sana'a, the capital of Yemen? Yeah, baby. Where's the reconstruction of Gaza, for that matter? Yeah, baby. Ron, I'd like to shift over to finance again because I've been spending a lot of time following silver and following XRP, and there are some developments recently that are just of monstrous immense importance in both silver and XRP. The COMEX doesn't have any silver, at least no eligible silver. So they're bidding on something that's not in the vault. That's very new. This is not August of 2020. Back then, JP Morgan, through their Swiss subsidiary, let loose 200 million ounces of silver to put a cap on it. Now, instead, they're removing silver from the vaults. They're no longer eligible for delivery. And the price continues to go up. I was in a conversation with a really bright guy, and we were of the opinion that 65 is going to offer some resistance. Not because there's a lot of silver available to dump on the market there, but 65 might be some kind of a structural deadline limit. Like the naked shorts are told, well, you can get up to 60, but you can't really get to 65 because we're going to call these in. You're just way too extended on the criminal naked short side. This is history being made. We might be seeing limits on the naked shorts for being on the wrong side. They might have been told force majeure. Not so sure you're going to be able to get off the hook with that.
Really?
I don't know. I'm saying that is a point to argue.
Wow.
Could that be what's going on at 65? We're going to just give you a free pass, but if we get above 65, we can't do force majeure. I'm not saying that's the case, Ron. I'm saying, is that being argued now? Something important is about 65. But I got a joke, and it's partly meant to be fun. It's partly meant to be real. Fibonacci is in the room. 10, 20, 30, 50, 80. Fibonacci is in the room. Let me do that again. 10, 20, 30, 50, 80. Here's my joke for all the mathematically defective. 10, 20, 30, 50, 80. What's next?
10, 20, 30, 50, 80. That would be that'd be 130.
You get an A, Ron, but not for speed.
Well, I mean, because I was trying to analyze the.
You're trying not to make a mistake. I know.
No, I was trying to analyze the how the next number was derived, and it's like, oh, it's just adding the last two numbers.
You add the last two numbers, right?
Yeah, 10, 20.
That's Fibonacci.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's something else going on. The ratio of the next to the current, the ratio is 1 plus the square root of 5 all over 2. The ratio, it converges to that. It's about 0.68. Take a look at it. 5/3. 5, 1, 2, 3, 5. 5/3. What's 5/3? 1.667.
Yeah,
there you go. The ratio. Okay. What's 13? Do 13 over 8. Have some fun, and you'll see that it is 1.68, give or take. Just keep doing the rate. Okay, I've mathematically proved that the next one over the current, as you go way out, like 100, 150, 200, 300, the ratio converges to 1 plus the square root of 5 over 2. Okay, that's the ratio. It's called the golden ratio. All right, Ron, there's something really big happening with silver, and I believe Russia and China and Iran, this is my belief based on certain comments from certain officials in Russia, a comment echoed in Iran, and then some tweet from a Chinese official. The Russians, the Chinese, and the Iranians realize our Achilles heel for the dollar is silver. Silver breaks the dollar, not gold, silver. And
well, that would make sense.
It's a smaller market. That's what confuses me.
That actually makes sense to me.
The silver market is so small. Okay, I'll never forget this. Okay, you know what I mean by a morning session? 9 a.m. to noon, the morning, or to 12:30, the morning part of a stock market session, the morning session. Okay, Apple Computer has more volume in the morning session of a single day than silver does for the entire year. That's how small silver is. And it has the power to break the dollar because of all the naked shorts that have been piled on for 30 years. They never get called upon. The regulators, CFTC, they always give them a pass. Okay, if there's a need to drive down the silver price, yeah, they can do an entire annual silver mining output dump with paper in a single hour, no consequences. They did that a month ago. They probably did it today because we're down, I think
we're down like 3 cents.
$1.50.
No, well, I just checked silver about 10 minutes ago and it was like 61.
Down a buck and a half.
No, 60. It's about like $3. Yesterday when I checked it before I went to bed last night, and it was like $64.20, and this morning when I woke up, or just when I checked it a few minutes ago, it was about $61.30.
More than a couple bucks.
Yeah.
I honestly, I watch the factors. I watch what moves it. I watch the commentary. I watch the vulnerability. And I heard this morning that it hit 64. So I spoke incorrectly. I thought it was down a buck and a half. No, it's down to 61 plus. We are in the middle of a precious metal bust. And the bust goes to the upside. It doesn't go busting down. What busts is the paper naked shorts. The Russians know what's going on. And the Russians have renewed motivation to do attacks because the European Commission, the Parliament, Ursula von der Leyen, van der Leyen, liar.
I like van der Leyen better.
They're making plans now, not just to steal interest on the 340 billion in Russian-owned bonds. They're planning to do some outright confiscation because they're so desperate, and the British are desperate too. They're taxing farms. I believe I read that correctly as a 200,000 pound tax. Might have been a 300,000 pound tax, the average farm tax. Okay, the Parliament is saying, you got all these assets, so we're going to tax them. Well, why don't you drop the Islamic welfare? Okay, here's a fact that very few Americans know. There are over 60 million British in England, and 70 little cities, 70 cities have an Islamic mayor.
Wow.
Okay, so right now, when you have 1,200 tractors descending on London and the Parliament, they're making a statement. Drop the Islamic welfare. You're supporting Islam and you're attacking farms. So what are they doing, Ron?
Eating themselves from within?
They're going to stop the food distribution.
Mm-hmm.
No food in supermarkets.
So basically what they're turning into is they're going to turn into Africa.
Well, they're pretty much in North Africa right now. I'd love to know what the Islamic population percentage is. It must rival France by now. I don't ever hear France has 70 cities who are Islamic mayors. I have a friend who went to London and said, Jim, I've never seen so many Muslims. I've never seen so many Chinese faces. And a different friend said the same thing about New York City. I heard a great joke. The United States is no longer a melting pot. It's a chamber pot. You know what a chamber pot is?
Oh, yes, I do.
A chamber pot is what you take a leak in. And, this is for like 200, 300 years ago. They didn't have bathrooms. So they didn't want to go out to the outhouse and take a dump.
Not at night.
No, not at night, and not at 4:30 in the morning when you really couldn't hold it back anymore. So you go to the chamber pot, and it's a big pot, this kind of diameter and you take a dump in it. I would love to know what they used for toilet paper back then. I would love to know because anyway, I don't want to talk about that.
I remember I remember during the Civil War when Benjamin Butler, who was a general, he was the governor of New Orleans when the North kind of took over New Orleans. All the women in the quarter, whenever the Union soldiers would walk by, they dumped their chamber pots on them.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So he put in a general order, and he said any woman who does that to a Union officer or soldier is going to be treated basically like a hooker, and you're going to be treated accordingly. And
well, hookers weren't illegal. I thought you were going to say
an
enemy combatant,
prostitution or whatever, but whatever.
That wasn't illegal back then.
I'm just saying that's what he said. Now,
well, maybe
I don't know how to determine.
They'd whip them.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to refer to something that would bring about a hanging.
No, I don't think it was going to be a capital punishment, but certainly they were going to get some sort of punishment.
Well, let's be real. The chamber pots that were the chamber pots that could be hurled would usually be urine.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. So it was a yellow rain. Okay. Let's get off that. I know it.
Moving on. Hey, this is Untold History, right? My channel's Untold History, so we can inject a little historical humor in there.
Well, okay. Silver is the Achilles heel. I don't see any upside limit. And I did a show recently where the host said to me, Jim, do you see $100 in the next 2 or 3, 4 months? I said, yes, I don't see anything stopping this. There's no metal to stop it. The bidding is strong. And there's a lot of bad financial analysis out there. They're saying that silver is going up because of golly, I forgot. It was so stupid what they said that I forgot. What are some of the things that they say? Why is silver going up? I countered by saying, no, it's the U.S. government debt. No, it's solar demand. No, it's military demand for missiles.
No, it's not. Yeah, it has not reached its industrial need yet. There's
an annual silver deficit. It's been going on for 10 years. Ron, I think that what they were saying is that there's trouble in the treasury bond land. So silver is taking a big bid. Well, yeah, but that's only one of 5 factors. When people tell me, Jim, is it time to sell at 50 and 55? I say, well, here's a checklist. Is the U.S. government debt resolved? No. Is the Mexican cartel exporting silver? No. Is the paper silver game still at work? Yeah. Has it been fixed? No. Is there a recognition that silver is in deficit and is an Achilles heel for the dollar? Yes. I said, okay, look, until you get a change in these 6 things, silver just continues going up, and so does gold. So when you see a big move like this in a correction, a sell-off, it's time to buy. This thing is not going to go down to 52. It's not going to go down to 55. I don't think it's going to go down to 58. I'd be really surprised if it went down to 59 as a handle. But, that's where you have to guess a bit. And here's a good rule of thumb. I don't know what the support line was. I think it was 48. So from 48 to 64 is 16 points. 16 points. Now, there's a good measure of what a big correction would have for a limit, and it's 3/8. So 3/8 would be 6 points. So 64, well, there's your 58. Okay, we could go down to 58 possibly, but I really believe that anything under 60, traders are going to jump on. because there's no silver. Now, when I say a 3/8 is a normal correction for a good size correction after a huge move up, that's in a real market. We don't have a market.
No.
We don't have any silver. We don't have any silver. So it's unobtainium. And JP Morgan, I'd love to know, hey, JP Morgan, what are you going to do with those 24 million ounces? Are you going to drop them on the market to make a market? Or are you going to remove it quietly and say it got sold and lie? Because they can lie. They're allowed to lie. In fact, they can make false financial reports. I don't know if it was the Financial Regulatory Bill of 2008, Dodd-Frank. I believe that's where it was. They are permitted to lie and issue false financial reports for national security reasons. Okay, it's not Patriot Act. It was after that. Okay, so they could lie about what happened to the 24 million ounces. I think they hoard them. I think they distribute them to the other Wall Street banks and they don't allow it to get to the market. What we're about to see, Ron, is silver to vanish. Real silver that could go to market is going to vanish. Let me give you a couple examples. First Majestic. They're one of my favorites. What's his name? Neumeyer? I think the CEO is named Neumeyer. You can check that if you wish. But First Majestic. They have been the most rebellious of all the silver producers. Do you think Neumeyer will say, we're going to hold back on supplying to the market our silver output from mining? We're going to do a 30, maybe 60-day moratorium on supplying the market? We have the U.S. Mint that say we're not making any coins anymore. And I believe Miles Franklin, I'm not certain, but I'm getting indications from clients that they don't have any silver coins. Okay.
Wow.
We're at unobtainium now, Ron. So when you get near unobtainium, what you see is that legitimate supply is withdrawn. Now, here's another example, but it's at the state level. Mexico is not exporting silver. And I think it's just a matter of a month or two where they say to China, we're not going to even supply you silver concentrate. We're going to keep it home. There's a movement now in Mexico to keep it home. Keep the silver home. Why? Because it's going to go up maybe to $200 or $300. This is really,
yeah. I don't doubt that at all. I found the I found this here. It says because I asked, I said, I heard the Fed is going to start printing again under a different name than QE, and it says yes. The Federal Reserve has recently signaled a shift that looks a lot like money printing again under a different name and framework. It's called Reserve Management Purchase, RMPs. Instead of QT, the Fed announced it will begin buying short-term Treasury bills, about $40 billion per month, starting around December the 12th. So that's today.
It's interesting that coincides with their failed auctions.
Yeah.
The auctions are not having good attendance. They've had 2 or 3 in the last few months that have been wretched. Okay, this is going to go on and on. I'd like to make a point that I included in the November report for golden-jackass.com. 10 years ago, the silver price was about a third of what it is now. We have a 3 times higher silver price and we have lower mine output.
Mm-hmm.
It's called supply inelasticity. Raise the price and you still got less supply. Inelastic supply. This is historic We're making history. Normally, if you triple the price, you bring about a huge increase in supply. Why does it not happen now? Because we've run out of giant silver mines. We've run out. All we got now are little silver mines, plus Mexico. You know, a lot of people don't realize Mexico is something like 56% of global output for silver. They should really call themselves the little silver country.
Yeah, they produce the most.
And that's why the cartel has so much potential power. They could combine with Ecuador, Chile. Oh, what's the other one? Ecuador, Chile, and Argentina, and there's a fourth one. Ecuador, Chile, not Bolivia. I can't think of it right now. The Andes nations, together they produce over 60% of the global silver. Okay, if they make a cartel, they can just hold on to it. Before you know it, we got $300-400 silver price. Deny it to the market. Here's a funny one. Poland has more silver production than Russia. Poland just got a couple giant mines. Russia's got pretty much everything else. Okay, shall we shift to XRP because this is
let's do that. Yeah, let's do that.
Let me do something with my shade.
I'm actually gonna I'm looking a couple things up about silver as I'm looking at silver production.
Peru, Chile, Ecuador. Argentina is small for silver.
Well, that's because they don't really have they're not really part of the mountain range.
Right. It's the Andes range. You're right.
Yeah.
And it's unique because it's the longest mountain range on the planet.
So I looked it up. So the top ranking producers in the world are Mexico. They produce 63 trillion troy ounces of
what's
silver
the percentage
annually.
What's the percentages though? Do you have it there? Global percent.
Let's see here. Let's see. So it's going to be Mexico is 24%, almost a quarter of the world. China is 12.9. Peru is 12.2. Bolivia 5. Poland is 5. Russia is 4.7. Chile 4.7.
My 56 is the Andes.
United States,
together.
United States is 4.3. So if you combine Mexico, Peru, Bolivia,
Chile.
and Chile, that's let's see, 5, 10, 22. Yeah, you're looking at almost half of the world's production.
Right.
In that area.
Yep. So they're in a position to join with China because, let's face it, Mexico is turning communist, and their biggest partner now is China. They're doing all kinds of, I think, shady deals. They're supplying silver ore and gold ore to China and not making it available to the market. If they make a cartel, you know, people tell me, Jim, what do you mean? Why a cartel? What do you mean? I said, do you know what OPEC is? Well, that's the Middle East, Persian Gulf nations working together to control supply and control price by means of their dominant role in the oil industry. They dominate the global production of oil. Well, that's what a cartel for silver could do. I mean, we could be dealing 3 years from now with a $280 price, and it goes up $80 in a single day because the Mexican cartel makes a decision to reduce by 5% the amount that they release into the market. That's what, you know, the OPEC watchers. OPEC made a statement that they're going to cut back in Saudi. They're going to cut back 2% in oil production. It's just a statement, and the oil price goes up $5. Okay, that could happen to silver in the future years. That
Right.
would be monstrous
And
importance.
for those of you who don't know, OPEC is it's basically it was created back when they did the petrodollar, when they linked the dollar to the reserve currency to the oil production in Saudi Arabia, and OPEC is the Organization of Petroleum
Petroleum
Exporting Countries.
exporting countries. I got a trivia question for you. This is a good one. Whose idea was it to quadruple the oil price in
Uh,
1973?
I'm gonna you're well. I'm if you're gonna ask me, I'm gonna probably say it was Kissinger.
Very good. The Saudis, they said, "Are you kidding? There'll be objections." And Kissinger said, "We'll take care of all that. We'll blame it on the Arabs, but
Yeah, and then
we'll,
they then
we'll
then they
manage
had then
we'll
they had the
manage the
Yom
press."
well then they did the Yom Kippur War, and then all the Arab countries got pissed off at the United States for supporting Israel, so they cut production, and that's when we got all the gas lines in the United States in the middle part of the 70s.
Right. It wasn't hard to get the Arabs to go along with raising the price. I mean,
No.
who in his right mind would say, "Wait a minute, you telling me I'll get $100 billion more per year?" And they say, "No, per quarter." Okay, so here's the back end of that. There are many sides to the petrodollar creation and the 1973 agreement. The Saudis were told, "You will comply, and we will make you unbelievably wealthy, and you can build mansions." And what they did is they made Bentley cars made of pure silver, stuff like that.
Right.
Really opulent, horrendous actions. But the Saudis were told, you've got to purchase U.S. weapons, and we'll make sure that there's a war going on at all times. You've got to purchase U.S. weapons. And there's more to this.
Well, that was right about the same time that Brzezinski was laying the foundations for radical Islam to be the next boogeyman after they brought in the Soviet Union to invade Afghanistan. And then they broke the Soviets, that and Chernobyl. And then, of course, then we dealt with the radical Islam. Anyway.
Yeah, but the point that I want to make was 1/4 of all the OPEC sales went to the Exchange Stabilization Fund.
Interesting.
So the United States government said, we're going to hold your treasury bonds, only 1/4 of them, and it'll be used to stabilize markets. Are you aware that 4 years ago, the Saudis were told you're not going to get it back?
Interesting. I did not.
Yeah. And you'll never guess why. The U.S. Supreme Court said you can't get back your treasury bonds that are being held in escrow by the U.S. government. They didn't say the Exchange Stabilization Fund. And the reason was because you guys did 9/11.
Oh, you know what? I'll be honest with you, Jim. I was literally going to say it didn't have anything to do with the 19 hijackers, did it? That was my question.
Yeah. All right. So there's a lot of payback coming. And, anyone who's paid attention lately will see that the Saudis have one leg in BRICS with a Russian boot on, and the other leg in the U.S., Anglo-American Five Eyes with a boot that's U.S. military.
Right.
And that is a very delicate balance to achieve. And I wouldn't want the role. I'll go so far as to say that this ain't the original Mohammed bin Salman. This ain't the original. The original wasn't sufficiently bright, wasn't sufficiently compliant. So he got gunned down and replaced. And I defy any American to show me that this is the original Mohammed bin Salman, the prince.
I'm gonna respectfully push back on that a little bit, Jimbo,
Go
because
right
I mean
ahead.
everything that I understood about Mohammed bin Salman was he took an extreme interest in national politics from a very young age, and even though he wasn't in line to become the crown prince, that was one of the main things that was predicated on the Abraham Accords, and the Las Vegas was an assassination attempt against him because the Saudi government owns like the top 4 or 5 floors of Mandalay Bay.
His own half brothers did the killing, Ron. We have no idea what goes on behind Riyadh palace walls. None whatsoever. There was a 4-month period where Mohammed bin Salman was never seen in public.
Mm. Well, I
All
can't
right, let's not worry about it. Doesn't matter.
I can't
It
attest to
really
that either.
doesn't matter because right now Saudi has allowed OPEC plus. That's what they call it, OPEC plus Russia. So Russia dictates a lot of oil policy for the Saudis and the entire Persian Gulf nations. Russia has agreements for liquefied natural gas with Qatar. They call it Qatar. I call it Qatar. I don't care. I call it Qatar. So what?
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Tomato.
I love the whatever.
Whatever.
Okay, so
What about speaking of liquid natural gas? I'm meaning to shift subjects, but speaking of liquid natural LNG, is I'm hearing rumors or rumblings that Ukraine was responsible for the destruction of the pipeline from Russia to, or from the Nord Stream pipeline under the sea.
could you repeat that? Who is responsible?
Ukraine.
Oh, yeah, obviously. Ukraine with the U.S. Navy frogmen.
Mm.
It was U.S. SEALs. And, I really wonder a couple things. Those U.S. SEALs in the Navy who assisted in destroying or sabotage Nord Stream 2, were they paid a lot of money or were they murdered afterwards? And if you think there's no precedent, you're a novice to this game.
Mm. Yeah, it's called. Just
SEAL Team 6.
Look at Lee Harvey Oswald.
SEAL Team 6.
Yeah, SEAL Team 6.
The ones who supposedly captured bin Laden. Okay,
Yeah.
I got to tell you a quick little story. It was 2003. I was working for a consulting firm in Pennsylvania. I was working as a marketing research analyst. And on one project, we had this one guy. He was a database expert. He was a really sharp fellow. He was U.S. educated. He was Pakistani. And his name was Ahmad, along with about 100 million others. Ahmad was my buddy. We had lunch together occasionally. He was working on projects with me. He was the database pro who helped arrange for my databases to be available, and I'd have programs to do SAS, statistical programming, to do analysis and model building and this and that. And he was my database guy. Hey, Ahmad, is it all clean? Is it all ready? Yep, it'll be ready but tomorrow, 10 a.m. Okay, after lunch one time, he said, Jim, you got to see this. So I went to his office, and he shows me a Karachi newspaper. Karachi, Pakistan.
Right.
And he said, I know you don't know Arabic, but this is not Arabic. This is Urdu. Urdu is the national language of Pakistan. They share the alphabet with the Arabs. But just like you have Spanish and English have the same alphabet, and you got accents and marks in Spanish, the same in French. I know what the French accents are, and I know what the Spanish accents are. And I know how to use them. I don't know much about the German accent, and there's really only the umlaut. But they have a different double S. They call it the Schloss. It's like a beta.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What he said was, Jim, take a look at this title. And I said, okay, what's it say, Ahmad? And he said, The Funeral March of Osama bin Laden. I said, what's the date on that? And he said, April 2003. And I said, read to me. What does it say? And it says, tens of thousands showed up for their national hero, Osama bin Laden, who died last month of liver problems.
Liver or kidney?
Whatever, kidney.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, because he was
You're right.
seen
kidney.
Yeah,
kidney.
Yeah.
You're right. I said, keep on reading, and there's more information. Then something about his family and mourning and where his family lived, and how long he had been back in Karachi, where he wanted to die, and all kinds of different human interest items, and it was like 2 or 3 columns in Urdu. I didn't have a smartphone at that time, but if I had, I would have taken a picture of it and mailed it to myself for posterity. But that's the sort of stuff that gets scrubbed. He said, Jim, bin Laden been dead for a while. The American government, they find a lot of value in keeping him alive and making him like an evil guy, the enemy of the people. And I said, yeah, the boogeyman. And he said, yep.
Emmanuel Goldstein.
I kept up with Ahmad for a few months after that job ended.
You know who Emmanuel Goldstein was?
No.
Again, that's from the book 1984. And Emmanuel Goldstein was the enemy. That he was always the boogeyman that they would always blame the wars on, and
couldn't catch him.
And they could never catch him. But hey, a CNN reporter can go catch him.
Yeah. All right, Ron. Let's get to XRP because we're going long.
Yeah.
We're going long, and I want to get a lot of meat here in XRP. It was a year and a half ago that a colleague of mine, Sky Crane, sat me down and said, Jim, you need to learn some things about crypto because the next couple of years, they're going to be historic. There's something going on right now, and it's embryonic. It's a very early stage, but there's something called XRP. Remember, this was a year and a half ago. This was the spring months of 2024. He said, I've made a lot of money in crypto, and a lot of them have been with these teeny tiny little things that go up from, like 20 per penny, and then I sell it at 2 cents. So I made a 40x gain on it, but I only had a few $100s. So I 40x on a couple $100, and, thousands upon thousands kept on adding up. He said, I did it over and over again. I bought something at a penny and a half. I sold it for $3. I bought something at $1. I sold it for $12. And my rule was if it didn't have intellectual property, I got rid of it. So what I'm finding, Jim, is that after getting rid of all these other non-IP coins, I find myself with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. And I got a little of XLM, but I don't think it's going to really take off in any big way. Not like XRP. He said XRP is making deals. They're making contracts. They're getting global adoption. And it's happening slowly. And remember, this was April, May, June last year. And I said, what are you doing, Sky? He has a real name. I said, what are you doing, Sky? Are you going to go like 1/3 in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP? And he said, no, I'm going to go more like 90% XRP. I said, really? You have to explain to me how that all works and what you're doing. And he said, oh, no problem. Sure. So he started talking about the bridge asset and transfers from banks to banks across borders. Talks about cross-border settlement, net trade settlement, like on a monthly basis. He said that Japan is well along. He said they're going to standardize it in Japan. This is a year and a half ago. And he said, are you aware that UAE has invested $200 million to make a crypto foundation as part of their central bank, and they're going to be doing crypto payments for the energy business in the energy sector, and that's when I started really catching on. That XRP was being used for a small percentage of energy deals with Europe and India. Then I did a consult call with a guy in Oman, and his name was also Ahmad, because there are 100 million Ahmads. And he told me that UAE has really gone in a very big way at the lowest level retail. I said, you mean like utility bills? He said, yeah, and cell phone bills and water bills. He said, water bill is a big issue in the Persian Gulf, water. Electric is also, because it powers air conditioning.
Yeah. Well, they use desalination plants all over the Middle East.
Yeah. So I learned that small companies were being paid in XRP in UAE. And the one example he gave me was, I don't remember whether it was an electric contractor or a cement contractor. I think it was cement. But they got cement, they got glass, they got furniture, they got electric. These are the contractors. He said, yeah, Jim, I know somebody. And you said, are there any 8 to 10 story buildings where the contractors are taking XRP? And that's exactly what example I have. I think it was a cement contractor for one project. They're using XRP. I said, is this a trial basis before they use it for cross-border energy deals? And he said, I think that's the natural progression. All right, so what Sky Crane told me to do was take all of your Bitcoin and all of your Ethereum and gradually move it into XRP before the election in November of 24. He said, when Trump, he didn't say if, he said, when Trump is reelected, there's going to be a change of the guard. Gensler's going to go out. There'll be a better CFTC chairman also, and we have that with Caroline Pham. And he said, I think we're going to see a multiple move, like from 50 cents to $2, $2.25, right after the election. And that's exactly what we got. And in the following months, he didn't expect it, but it went up to 3, which just gave it a lot of ground to come back to the base of 2. All right. My friend Sky is going to retire on his XRP. And I don't want to give away anything more for privacy reasons, but he's got a goal. He knows where it must go in order for him to cash out and live out his years. He's a little older than I am and is a good deal smarter than I am in crypto. I prefer calling it digital assets and digital technology for banking, digital finance. We got some new terms like TradFi is traditional finance. That's Wall Street and big banks, using their emails and phone calls and paper sheets. And Swift came out with a lie a little over a month ago. They said they were not going to go with XRP. They were going to, develop their own on the Ethereum rails. Good luck with that. They're going to try to develop in the next several months what XRP has been using for the last 5 years. Good luck with that. A stupid comment, a lying and deceptive comment by Swift. Swift will be eating out of Ripple's hand. Okay, this is going to be really quite big. Sky Crane continued to tell me about retail, cross-border, and Swift, the 3 tiers. And he did not expect much to happen with the low-level retail tier. And then we heard about Buc-ee's in Texas. They honor XRP payments. I think they honor Bitcoin payments also. And then we heard about AMG Theaters. They honor XRP, but I think they also honor XRP. But here's the rub with XRP. If you're in like Starbucks and you're paying with your XRP, you might have to wait 15 minutes at the cash register. Whereas with XRP, it'll be 2 to 3 seconds. Maybe less. Okay, but there's more. MasterCard just signed a contract with Ripple for XRP settlement. So when I met with Sky Crane again, I said, pardon me if I'm speaking incorrectly, but is it not the case that XRP is winning the retail sector, which was not expected to happen? And he said, yeah, it's really quite amazing. On head-to-head competitive comparisons, they're winning. I said, wasn't XLM supposed to win that? And he said, yeah, they've got a good deal, but XRP is winning some big contracts. I said, okay, that's great. What's happening with cross-border? He said, well, that's going to be like 80% or more. XRP will win that. I said, that's what it was designed for, right? He said, yeah, good. You got that. I said, well, they're not going to stop there. If they're going to win the cross-border sector and they get the monopoly, semi-monopoly of it, a monopoly is, 60% or more. They're going to get better than that. They're going to get, I think, 80% of the cross-border trade, because that's what they're really working on with central bank integration. Then he said, Jim, don't expect much from SWIFT, but, surprises can happen. Yeah. They've got a string of like 10 gas stations on the side, maybe more, maybe 15 in Texas. My Texas friends say, Jim, they're gigantic.
Oh, they're enormous. I think I showed you a picture of them one time. They have like over 100 pumps, and they've got one of their big sales points is that they literally have a full-time employee in each bathroom cleaning it up, so every time if you need to stop for a road break, you can use the facilities that are clean. I mean, it's all they're doing is constantly just
very unusual in the United States of socialist America. Anyway, okay, what Sky Crane told me was, if SWIFT gets 5 or 10% of, if XRP gets 5 or 10% of SWIFT volume, it would be enormous. That would be a very, very big deal. And from what I'm seeing, it looks like they're going to get 30%
minimum.
I said that I was going to go on and say I think that is a really conservative figure. I would not be surprised if they get the monopoly on SWIFT, because it's the fastest, because it's the cheapest, because it's the most scalable, because it's the most reliable. But, I just got to say, XLM does have its version of on-demand liquidity.
Mm-hmm.
And it is cheap and fast. But they have not gone out there and won markets and partners.
No, they have not. Well, I mean, they have, but it's been done at a much more
local level.
Local and like
small
commerce level, as opposed to institutional level. And that's what XRP and Ripple have been doing. There's a reason that, when you analyze San Francisco, I mean, San Francisco is just an absolute shithole at this point, and it's tragic, actually. But Ripple actually moved their headquarters to downtown San Francisco. Now, why would they do that if they didn't think that it was going to be?
They're going to transform it.
Yep.
They're going to turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to bring about profit and distribute it and make partnerships. And it's going to be like a gigantic garden. I made a picture. It only took me about 20 minutes to make. I call it the Ripple Campus. I made a Ripple Campus, and on it is all the different subsidiaries. Okay, at the center is the bank. And I'm going to just make a statement. I think it's almost a lock that they're going to get the bank license. And my reasoning is simple. There's been a lot of accumulation on a private basis, off the market. They call it, OTC and dark pools. Some are calling it back channels. There's been a lot of accumulation by big financial firms. And I believe that's half of the deal. Ron, I think it's a handshake. It's a handshake. Ripple, can you help us get a few billion coins? Yeah, if you help us get the bank license. So that's my reasoning. There's a lot of evidence for accumulation. It's causing some problems. It's causing some, doubts among the XRP army. There are even fewer now that hold 50,000 coins or more. I'm going to make a statement that I believe that Ripple and XRP are going to get at least 60% of the SWIFT traffic. They're going to get at least 80% of the cross-border traffic. And they might get as much as 20 to 30% of the retail traffic. And they're not too concerned about that. I think they want the big players like MasterCard and ATM dispensaries, movie theaters. You notice that they're not going to the mom and pop shops for, plumbing and hardware.
One thing that you kind of need to pay attention to, that I don't know if you know this, but Ripple incorporated itself out of Wyoming. And Wyoming is the only state that will allow, I believe, for crypto banks.
Huh.
So,
well,
and they did that in 2021. So they are, I mean, they organize their entity outside of, in Wyoming, but they are their physical location headquarters is in San Francisco, but they are incorporated out of Wyoming.
That could turn out to be a very big advantage. I think Ripple is going to become part of the Wall Street Bank elite in the next 2 years. Okay.
Here's context. Wyoming has actively courted crypto companies with laws that provide a clearer framework for digital assets, making it an attractive jurisdiction for entities like Ripple to register, even if their main operations remain elsewhere. And the purpose of doing this was to establish a business presence in Wyoming, taking advantage of its progressive blockchain regulations, as noted by figures like Caitlin Long. So. Anyway, yeah, this is a little older news, but it's still, I think it's highly relevant to what you're talking about in terms of banking.
Yeah, well, I think that all states are going to change their regulation because it's going to be started at a federal level and work down. Okay. Garlinghouse, it was the first week of November. They had the Ripple Swell conference.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can focus on details, but what I like to do is focus on details, look for information, look for, handshakes, look for agreements made. But I also like to step back. It's really important to step back. And when you do, you realize that 20 major financial firms were in attendance on panels at the Ripple Swell.
Right. Here's a little interesting tidbit, and I could be reading into this. I don't know, but I'm just going to toss it out there just for food for thought. But everything Ripple does, whether it be their name or conferences that they do, or a lot of different things that they do in-house, it's all related to terms that talk about liquid or water.
Water, not liquidity, not financial liquidity.
Well, on-demand liquidity. Okay, liquidity is,
yeah, okay. I'm not sure what you're saying.
Okay, all right.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
I'm just going to say,
is Ripple being clever using a water metaphor?
Well, if you pair that up with the term "watch the water."
Okay, but try to answer me. Is Ripple being clever using a water metaphor on a repeated basis?
I think so. Because what is liquidity? I mean, when you look at
financial flow,
right? But it uses water metaphors. I mean, the entire banking system uses water metaphors.
Turn the spigot on. Yeah. I know. A finger in the dike.
Yeah.
I get all that. Okay.
Currency.
Currency. Yep. Okay. This is very interesting because XRP, I'm just going to go on with on-demand liquidity here. Ripple and XRP, remove the requirement and necessity of escrow accounts, the corresponding escrow accounts. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, Ron, but in the last 2 months, the estimate for freed up capital from corresponding escrow accounts, I first heard of it in October as being $12 to $15 trillion. That's how much is being locked up for transfers of large size, bank to bank, institution to institution, across the globe, continent to continent. But in the last week, I've heard 25 trillion. 25 to 27 trillion is what I hear now that will be freed up. So that's one reason the banking industry wants to use XRP and get their on-demand liquidity, remove the need for the escrow corresponding accounts, and free up 20 plus or minus trillion dollars in capital that can be used for lending purposes, can be used for capital investment purposes, can be used for, just plain old Bitcoin or XRP investments.
Right.
The banks have a vested interest to use XRP. And here's one of my major points, and I'm not alone. This is not going to be a 5-step transition for the macroeconomy or the microeconomy. The macroeconomy is going to have all these different players, and they're going to say, I want it now. I don't want to wait. I don't want my competitors to have it where they get an 80%, 90% reduction in their transfer costs, and I don't get that. I get to watch when my business goes out and kaput. No one's going to want a competitor to have the advantage. Therefore, it's going to be a reset of done across the board. It's an argument for XRP to suddenly go 10x or 20x higher, Ron. It is an argument for
it's what they call flip the switch. That's what a lot of people are calling flip the switch.
I call it a sequence of gap up events. Where suddenly it's $15 or $20. No. And then 2 weeks later, suddenly it's $75, $80. Because it must be high in price and value in order to efficiently, they say with lower friction, all that just means is less inefficiency, more efficiency, get the job done. And Ron, we're getting the Depository Trust Clearing Corp now opening transfer windows to accommodate XRP. This is a multi-trillion-dollar business. Okay.
Can I ask you a question? And I'm not asking this from the Nasara Jasara thing, because I don't necessarily subscribe to that. But do you think that when they transfer over away from a Federal Reserve note and go to a different type of a currency that's actually backed by something, do you think that there's going to be some sort of a debt jubilee? Will they just have to wipe away a certain amount of debt so that they can usher in a new system that's not based on a debt instrument?
I don't know, Ron. It's a very controversial point. I don't really have an opinion
on that.
No, I have an opinion. I don't have a lot of conviction.
Okay. I don't either, and that's why I'm asking.
Let me raise a rhetorical question. Are they going to want 10 million Americans to suddenly no longer be shackled by debt?
Well, it depends on who. It depends on who they is.
Well, Trump might want to. But will the Congress? The Congress doesn't represent the people. The Congress represents, it's like, European soccer football. They've got 5 different patches on their uniform, but Congress doesn't have multiple patches. A number of them would have the Star of David, but let's not go there. Let's not go there. Okay. Will the Congress and financial organizations, Wall Street included, will they want the people to be free of debt? Will they do a pass on student debt? which is, I think, 2 trillion by now, maybe more. Will they want the shackles of debt to come off? I say only if there's a complete renovation of Congress. Okay, we're going to see some interesting rubber hitting the road when it comes to the Ripple bank license, because I think Ripple is going to represent the people. I think Ripple is going to make a lot of contracts. And this brings up something. There are two quotes. Garlinghouse said at the Swell conference, he said a couple things that are really important. Then he made a bombastic comment. He said, we're not looking to grab power from Wall Street. We're looking to share it. We're not looking to replace Wall Street in function since they're obsolete. We're looking to upgrade them.
Mm.
And, in front of a Bloomberg interviewer woman, shocked the shit out of her. He said, for the last 20 or 30 years, the big banks have done a really shitty job providing services to their clients.
Mm-hmm.
That got an ooh from the crowd. And that got a good 20 seconds of silence from the Bloomberg woman reporter.
She probably was like, she didn't know what to say.
What do I say now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
anyway.
he's not wrong. And I actually look at the banks as I don't think there's going to be people who are going to want to custody their own digital assets. I think the banks are still going to have a function in that respect, but I think banks are going to be converted from an institution that creates money to an institution that brings much more of a service sector economy where they house assets for people, but connect people who do have liquidity to those who need to borrow it.
Intermediary with utility type services.
Right.
Custodial wallet service. I think that's
right.
going to be very valuable. I have a number of clients who've done console calls with me say, Jim, I don't know how to do this wallet thing. I have a coin exchange account. Isn't that enough? And I said, it is enough, but it's a minimum. You got to be careful. They say, will one of these companies handle all that wallet stuff? I said, that's coming, and it's coming in a gigantic wave. A gigantic wave. Okay. There's one on the Ripple campus. Okay, let me just run through a few.
Go ahead.
Rail, that's now Ripple Prime. I think it's brokerage services. G Treasury, that connects to something like 30,000 corporate bond issuers. Evernorth, I don't know if you read their description, but it certainly looks like a venture capital firm under the Ripple roof. There are several more. There's something called EVM. See if I get this right. I think it's Ethereum Virtual Machine. That is like a bridge for all the developers, so they can develop applications with digital finance and operate within the Ripple and XRP ecosphere. There's another firm, I can't remember the name, and they are principal RLUSD stablecoin creators.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this
I think
is
you're thinking. Are you thinking of? I want to say RL, but that's wrong.
No, I'm going to bring up my Ripple campus.
What is the name of that company? It's not. I was thinking of Circle, but it's not Circle. I'm
gonna open it. I'll find it. I did the Ripple campus.
Let's see. There's BNY, SBI Holdings, MoonPay. Yeah, you're right. TradFi. That's a new term. The company behind Ripple USD is Ripple. Key partners, including BNY, which is what is that?
Rail.
Rail.
Rail is for stable coins. Oh, I got it backwards. I said Rail was for brokerage. It's Hidden Road. Hidden Road is for brokerage. Rail is for stable coins. Ethereum virtual machines, EVM sidechain is for application developers. G Treasury is for corporate bonds. Trident is for treasury management. That's going to be big. They're going to say to companies, you want to invest $1 million in XRP? We'll help you do that because we think it'll be worth 10 times more in several months. And the other one is SBI Holdings, which is a big financial firm in Japan. And they have emerged and evolved into a services liaison with the entire Japanese financial system. Ron, this is exciting. Evernorth is for venture capital. And what I want to see is a new addition to the campus. I think I'm going to have to make it bigger later because I think they're going to do an acquisition that will be an online lending firm. And they're going to take Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP as collateral, maybe a couple more, like XLM. And, let's face it, there are a couple of other big winners there, like HBAR. Oh, there's a quote from Hoskinson of Cardano. Mm-hmm. There's a quote from Cardano. He said, I wanted to make Cardano pure with no connection, no involvement. I wanted to have it pure and completely independent from the traditional finance, and I failed. It's a bad strategy. Ripple got it right. Cardano CEO said Ripple got it right, becoming the bridge from traditional finance to digital finance. In other words, Ripple's going to get lock, stock, and barrel the contracts to upgrade the traditional finance sector.
Right. Do you think we're going to see a dip on the price before it goes back up so that a lot more of the financial institutions can buy into it?
I don't know. I really don't care.
Okay.
I don't care. I've seen a lot of attacks and got into the 190 handle and how quickly did it get back up? Next day? Okay, so
yeah, it's like I checked it today. It was last time I checked. It was like $2 and a penny.
Yeah. The $2 is serving as a foundation for a launching pad.
It's at $1.99 right now. So I mean, it's hovering around the $2 range.
Okay, these are very, very exciting times when it comes to the transformation. This is not once per generation, Ron. I think this is once per century. I'd even go bigger than that, but I know. I like to be a little conservative. I don't like to make really wild comments because people try to tear me apart, and I don't want to give them any ammunition. But it was the 1960s, the 60s, where the banking industry got computerized. They used the IBM mainframes.
Yep.
In the 1970s, we had digital mainframes.
Mm-hmm.
I learned on an IBM 360. And I go back to cards. I'm not making it up. I was a really hot Fortran programmer. I liked assembler language, but I thought, I've hit the limit. It's time to go back to mathematics. So I developed a right arm of computer programming and computer usage, computer advantages. Well, I got hired one summer at Carnegie Mellon just to write a bunch of programs. I thought, you're going to pay me $7 an hour to do that? Well, thanks, Dr. Shaman. Dr. Shaman, he hired me. He called me up when I was in North Carolina, Outer Banks. He called me up. He got word to my dad. I have no idea how that happened. I think the department had my number, and Shaman got my number through the chairman. And he called me up at the beach and said, Jim, you got to get back home because there's a job waiting for you. It'll pay you $7 an hour for the rest of the summer. All you got to do is write a bunch of programs. That's all I know, Jim. You think you can do that? I said, hell yeah, I can do that. I was a good programmer. I was really good at algorithms. Okay, you need to make a little flow chart before you do the program. Okay, anyway, Ron, back to XRP. We're in the middle of a transformation. This is a paradigm shift. It was 60 years ago that we had the last transformation. And then we had another transformation in the 1990s, maybe the 1980s. That was the online, the internet transformation. I believe that it really took off in the 1990s, where you had companies say, we've got our customer service and product information online. You can go in there, check it out. You can submit a complaint. I just submitted a complaint with customer service online a week ago, and I got a reply, and I got a satisfactory result. Online, we had news services and magazines. The banks had online. The brokerage houses had online. Ameritrade, Schwab, and Wall Street was not first in line. No, they weren't first. They were followers, because where the cartel exists, innovation is slow. And that's what we're seeing now. All of Wall Street is going to join in. Bank of New York Mellon wants to convert, I believe it is $52 trillion under management. They want to tokenize it all. And their favorite for the stable coin is RLUSD. Bank of America, almost the exact same story. Ron, I'm going to make a forecast. This is wild and this is fun. The big banks are still insolvent.
I agree.
2 years ago, they advertised that they had $840 billion of insolvency, namely, which means the market value of their book of bonds, is primarily treasury bonds, the book of bonds, was below their book value, below what they paid for it. In other words, they were the suckers. They were the ones on a leash around their necks to buy treasury bonds at 1.5%, 2%, 2.5% for 10 stinking years. And now they're underwater because we're getting back to normal in the interest rates. So they were the slave bankers that had to buy treasury bonds at diddly percent. So here we are 2 years later, and I'm hearing that it's just under 500 billion, that the big banks are underwater, insolvent. How are they going to get out of that, Ron? JP Morgan buys 2 or 3 billion coins of XRP. Right. BlackRock, they're facing some bankruptcies. They've got all kinds of red ink, but I'd rather not talk about BlackRock because there's so little information about them, except that Fink leaked it out in a conference panel discussion. We've got an NDA with Ripple. He said, I can't talk about it. What's it? And he finally said, we have an NDA agreement with Ripple. Which means they've got exchange-traded funds coming, and they're going to be big, 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 big. State Street, ditto. Fidelity, ditto. Franklin Templeton is already out. And they're not making huge progress. It's the smaller ones that are making more progress. All right, here's my call, my forecast. The big financial banks are all going to want a couple billion minimum of XRP coins so they can take it 50-fold higher to 100 and get out of insolvency. Let's just make an argument. They got 2 billion coins. They're worth $2 each. They're keeping the price down so they can accumulate. So they got $4 billion in XRP, $4 billion, and they're going to drive it up 50-fold, and that'll become $200 billion. For one bank. They're no longer insolvent. One bank. 50-fold, $100 price. And you think that's outrageous? I think you got a wake-up call coming, because $100 is going to enable certain large scale functions, and it'll be a low figure for those large scale functions.
So then is the crypto market going to be the escape hatch for the United States in terms of getting rid of the Federal Reserve? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yep. And the fallout will come with USD Tether. And I think
when Tether collapses, I think Bitcoin's going to collapse.
I think they're tied too closely for Tether to have problems and Bitcoin not. That's how I like to phrase it. I'm not going to say they will go down hard together. I'm saying that USD Tether is the most abused of the stable coins.
I call it the Federal Reserve of stable coins.
That's a good description, because they're printing money to cover the dump treasury bond by BRICS nations.
Right.
And Tether is doing something very smart. I give them credit. They're buying gold. That they want a firm backstop for when they get slammed. And I don't have any call for how it's going to, take form. I just think it's going to happen. I don't know how. I don't know when. And I don't think it's 2 or 3 years from now. All right. So
I think we're seeing I think what we're going to see is, look, if Trump is leading the charge on a lot of this stuff, it has to be done within the next 3 years
it has to be done in the next 3 or 4 months, Ron.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying.
I know, but I don't care about long-term stuff.
Well, I'm simply talking about trying to get things accomplished within the framework of a 4-year administration.
Oh yeah, of course. And we're not even done with the first year.
Yeah, we're not done with the first year.
Look at all the progress we have in the first year, but not with Pfizer prosecution. But we won't go there.
No, I think personally, I think you have to take care of the financial system first, because the financial system, everything runs downstream of the financial system. All of the illegal arms, all of the paying off of politicians, paying off of judges,
all the migrants who got debit cards from United Nations,
all that stuff is downstream of Federal Reserve note, and you replace that, and then you start operating with a functioning currency that's got some sort of a backing or what have you, but it is no longer a debt instrument like the Federal Reserve note is. Then that's why I think there's the possibility that we could see maybe not an entire, but some sort of a debt jubilee that where like
I don't
student loan debt gets wiped out. I mean the credit card debt gets wiped out. I mean
I think that's a wet dream.
I don't, maybe, and you could be right. I don't know. I'm just saying you can't bring a cancerous system into a system that doesn't have cancer, and then hope that the system is going to remain healthy. So, and all the debt is cancer. So,
that's a really good point about cancer. I like to think of the financial system as the foundation upon which all business operates, the entire economy operates, and we live and walk atop. I mean, when you walk to the supermarket, you're on sidewalks. I get that. But you go into the supermarket and instantly, how are you going to pay that? Is that cash or debit card? How are you going to pay that? And then you got all these cards that are dependent directly on the company. Oh, do you have our debit card? Okay, because you got bonus points. We got advantages for getting a new sweater. Okay, we got all kinds of things. The foundation for the nation is the financial system. And if it's fraudulent, as ours has been for 54 years, we got unresolvable problems. We're going to have fallout that we're not going to be able to handle. Okay,
right.
I'm going to make a point here, and I don't want to sound too crazy, but the dollar has a foundation of treasuries and U.S. debt. So we have labeled debt instruments as assets to serve as building blocks for the financial system, which is pure heresy. And you get no debate on that from competent economists. You only get a debate on that from Ivy League economist PhD morons who think debt is good and we can never have too much debt because we can always handle it. But now we're finding that we can't. So I'd like to take away their Ivy League doctorate degrees in economics because I think they're morons. Okay. So now we need to replace the dollar, which has a debt foundation, with something. Let's just focus on trade settlement. You're at a port, you got a ship, it's full of oil or container vessels or something, and in the dark side, it's full of kids.
Right.
And you need payments. How are you going to do the payments? Well, before we were using a treasury bill, but now the BRICS nations don't want, they're almost on strike with the treasury bills. We are using credits for oil tanker shipments. You got an oil tanker shipment, you got X billion dollars of credit of US dollars. Yeah, unbelievable stuff is happening. And it's not in the news. Innovation in trade payment. Well, here's the newest innovation. We've got a bridge asset that Russia honors, India recognizes, the Persian Gulf, entire Gulf, plus Iran recognizes. Japan, China, and Korea, they all recognize. Australia recognizes it. And even Africa, little Africa with their giant land and tiny economy, they recognize XRP as a bridge asset. Let's use it to settle trade. It's called a consensual handshake. One side says, we recognize that as real. The other side recognizes that we recognize that as acceptable to give us. And when the dust clears, the XRP remains reusable. And you got a consensual handshake that has been completed, and the trade is done, the deal is done, the payments are done, and you don't have locked up 25 trillion or 15 trillion in escrow accounts. Where's the 25 trillion going to go? It might go to economic development, for God's sake. It might go into lending function because the big banks, they're not lending institutions no more.
What about
eliminated them.
What about infrastructure programs to modernize the United States? As you look at the United States, and it's freaking deteriorating so rapidly comparative to
by design.
What's that?
By design.
Yeah, by design, 100%.
That's the narco president design. Papa Bush, baby Bush, Clinton, Obama.
It goes back. It goes
that's
back
30 years of narco president. We need a decade. We don't need 1 year. We don't need one term of Trump to fix this. We need a decade. We had 30 years of destruction. Look what happened during the lockdown. The Rockefellers had a destructive policy, inflation policy, supply chain wreckage policy, sabotage of refinery policy. Oh my gosh. And now you got Democrats who are defending the destruction. We need to continue with the destructive policy. Try that during your primary for re-election, you dirtbag. Okay, what the Democrat followers don't understand, and they're soon going to get a lesson in what's the word? Civics or demographics. What the Democrats don't realize is they got a three-way partnership that creates a Democrat Party. It's the Marxists under Obama, it's the Satanists under the bankers, and it's the narcos under Langley. That is an axis made in hell.
Amen to that.
And that is what the Democrat Party is. And
and some of the Republicans as well.
Well, yeah, the rhinos. I know the rhinos are in there, and they're a problem, and they're going to continue to be a problem. What I want to see happen in the next few months is prosecution against Ilhan Omar, the Somalian representative from Minnesota. I want to see her prosecuted for immigration fraud, for campaign fraud, and booted out of the Congress and booted out of the country.
I think that's coming.
I think it's coming. They started by removing her entire constituency. I keep hearing 80,000 Somalis are going to be deported in a mass exercise. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. By the way, I got to point this out. In my 8th grade class, we were little devils, you know. I was a real problem child. During lunch in my 8th grade class, we raided the principal's office. We did it a couple times. We wanted to find out what you got in there, Sister Malia. Well, we found a book of student records, and it was class by class. And in our 8th grade, we got to see who had the highest IQ in our 8th grade class with 55 kids. 8th grade, half girls, half boys. 8th grade, IQs. Robert Conway, you're up there. Adele Iman, you're up there. Jim Willie, you're up there. I mean, like 130, give or take. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't pass it up, Ron. Who's on the bottom? We couldn't pass it up. I'm not going to say their last name.
You weren't there.
Oh no. I was at the top. We were in top 3.
Okay.
Me, Robert, and Adele. I had a crush on Adele. Her father really wrecked that. Anyway, we wanted to see who the bottom was and what was it. 82. Okay, 82 is rock bottom for IQ.
Wow.
And by the way,
that's barely functional, man.
That is what is the average in North Africa.
Mm-hmm.
That is what's average in the Caribbean. Okay, average. Jamaica. Okay, average. Give them a difficult problem in algebra and forget about it. Okay, here's where I'm leading, Ron. I just read an article where an international group that did analysis of various nations, demographics, etc. You know, small business percentage, industry percentage, broken family percentage, adoptions, and all these different things. Somalia, average IQ 68.
That makes sense.
It's almost insufficient to wipe your own ass.
It's certainly not.
80,000 of them in Minnesota. So what did they do?
Well, you saw
Trump. Know corruption.
You saw Trump.
Go ahead.
You saw Trump call them garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, he literally called them garbage and said that they don't do anything. All they do is just sit there and drain society. They literally like 85% of them are on welfare.
They defrauded the food programs, the elderly programs, and something else. And it was an $8.6 billion fraud. And now it's coming out that they defrauded Social Security by another $1 billion. And this is going to take down Governor Walz of Minnesota.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's just a matter of time.
I'm sure you saw the Somali or the gal that got baited by the Somali people at Cinnabon. Yes, no.
No, I don't follow.
Okay, so this is actually kind of funny. So this gal, she was a white gal. She was working at Cinnabon, and one of the Somalis baited her and said something about you think dressing the way that you do is somehow like sexual or like sexually improves your appearance or something like that. I mean, she was wearing long sleeves and a freaking a uniform at Cinnabon, right? And she basically gave him a double barrel middle finger and said, I'm racist, and called him threw out an N-bomb, and was shortly fired thereafter. But then somebody went out and set up a GoFundMe page for her with a target goal of 109,010 cents, $109,010. something like that. $109,010 was the goal,
Was
and
was that figure significant for some reason?
yes, it is, because apparently 109 to 110 is allegedly the times that a certain group of individuals has been excommunicated out of certain individual countries over the past several
Okay, that's
centuries.
wonderful. I got another thing that's related to the Somalis. There was a guy who made a video, and he said, "I'm working. I don't want to mention my company, but I'm working in a warehouse. It's a big company. We got a lot of trucks, we got a lot of forklifts, and we got a lot of Somalis here who are working." He said they don't bother to use the sanitary facilities, the men's room and the women's room. They just shit on a sidewalk outside because it's convenient.
Mm-hmm. Kind of sounds like San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't know how many Somalis they have. I
No,
believe
it's not about Somalis. I'm talking about how they
just general. Yeah, the homeless. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I studied IQ and just intelligence levels across the various countries, and the biggest the biggest drop has been in Germany in the last 10 years. But Western Europe has rather high IQ internationally. England and Western Europe. Eastern Europe does not. Ukraine, Bulgaria, Romania does not. Croatia, old Yugoslavia does not. China does not. But China has so many people that they got a lot of intelligent people. Just go figure. I got to say something about India. They're the largest country now in population. They've overtaken China. China.
Yeah, but I think it's like 300,000 or 400,000 people.
That's all the difference. Well, that's negligible.
I'm sorry, maybe millions, because I think I want to say India is like 1.1 billion, and China is like 900, and
China has gone under 1 billion.
Yeah,
I heard. Okay, here are a couple funny facts. These are democratic funny facts that get you a little prize at Trivial Pursuit. The middle class of India has a greater size than the U.S. population.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, there are more people in China with a variation of the name Chang, which includes Chung, Chang, Chang, Chuang, and Sang with a TS. There are 350 million of them in China.
Isn't that like the sounds you get when you throw a bunch of pots and pans out?
I've known a few Changs.
That's a joke. That's an old joke.
I've got a donor who's a Chang who lives on the East Coast, and he's a really smart guy. And he works for a big bank.
Yeah, no, I know some highly intelligent. Woof, wow, I know some highly.
We're getting off the track here. The point was that Somalis are bringing up the rear in human intelligence. They don't assimilate. They congregate for the purpose of running a scam.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Ilhan Omar. I've seen a few videos of her being dismantled by Senator Kennedy of Louisiana, those are beautiful. He is a gem. He said to Alexandra Cortez when he dismantled her, he said, "You got an economics degree from Boston University? I believe that's economics and international affairs, not economics, because you don't know what inflation is. You don't know what the Laffer curve is. In fact, you got C pluses in your introductory micro and introductory macroeconomic classes. I wouldn't want you to reorganize and restructure the U.S. economy any more than I'd want to have you reorganize my sock drawer." Okay, he's full of a lot of folksy stuff, but I tell you, he rips them apart. It's not just that. What he does is he offers tremendous material for their primary campaigns to unseat them from Congress. And that's what's coming. But Ilhan Omar, she's different. She's probably going to get the boot because the FBI, and this has come out a number of different places, the Department of Justice, rather, has been using the FBI to gather evidence against Omar for it's immigration violation, and it's the more serious is campaign fund theft.
Yeah,
she paid a boyfriend $3 million. She used her own brother for a marriage claim in a scam to get immigration, or to get him immigrant status.
Right.
And you know, this Mondami in New York, he's got a laundry list of campaign violations that could potentially cause him a lot of problems. I don't think they're going to kick him out. What I think they're going to do in New York, Ron, they're going to let them get what they voted for, which is sinking sewage.
Okay,
center.
so let me address that real quick because I think you're onto something, and I agree with that. I think what they're going to do is they're going to let these blue states die. They're going to die on the vine of this socialism garbage that they keep wanting to do, and I think that's one of the reasons why people like Cortez and the Squad and all these hardcore lefties have been allowed or allowed to win elections, or even made to win elections, to push the narrative almost like you know how the frog jumps out of the hot water of the boiling pot. Well, I feel like what they've done is they've accelerated the rise of the temperature in the pot to cause a whole bunch of people to jump out, and that's why we're seeing such an increase in people changing away from the Democrats and coming over to the Republicans. And I don't necessarily like the label, but I understand that, you know, some of these people, they still maintain their liberal mindset, but I do see a significant shift in how loyalty and partisanship. So
and doctrine that they adopt.
Correct.
They're seeing that having immigrants come in who cannot assimilate and who are on welfare, maybe that's not a good long-term plan.
No.
Okay, we're seeing. I read somewhere that the Democrat Party had lost 10% of its followers just since the Trump inauguration. It takes a while, and some will never be converted. And I got to say this. Those who've been vaccinated with boosters to amplify the effect, they might have some brain damage.
I agree.
They might have cognitive disabilities that are not very apparent unless they try to do a complex task and quit and say, I didn't need that anyway.
That's highly plausible.
I like to do complex tasks. I just solved the formula a little while ago and verified it for the Fibonacci sequence, a formula for silver price, 10, 20, 30, 50, 80, 130, etc. And I got the formula for it. It's got 1 plus the square root of 5 over 2 in the formula. But it's got also the conjugate, 1 minus the square root of 5 over 2. But the 1 plus the square root of 5 over 2 dominates as you get higher and higher in the sequence. Ron, for me, it was just a little mental exercise.
Sure.
And I decided 3 years ago, I'm going to write a math book because I've already got about 15 or 20 chapters from interesting little math problems. You know, if I had to name it right now, I'd call it Cool Math Problems with Jim Willie. Cool math problems. They're not for, a textbook for junior year, senior year mathematics in high school. That's not it. It's cool math problems. Okay, let me give you one example. You know the hypotenuse of a right triangle. You got two sides, A and B, and you got a hypotenuse of C. Well, C squared equals A squared plus B squared.
That's right.
Okay, 3, 4, and 5.
Yep.
5, 12, and 13. They're called triplets. 5, 12, and 13. I believe that's correct. I haven't checked that in 25.
That sounds right. That
144, 169. Yeah. Okay. All right. Can you prove c squared equals a squared plus b squared? I've got it in a 5-line proof. I asked Sister Malia in my 8th grade class. I said, Sister, I keep reading about what do you call it? Pythagorean theorem. I got something. I got bitten, I think. I get bitten when I snooze. I said, do you have a proof of the hypotenuse, the Pythagorean theorem? And she said, I actually have not seen one. I said, well, I'll work on it. And I couldn't do it. And I went on to other things like, repair my bicycle or play softball. Those were very big, time-consuming pursuits for me. And I became a good cyclist and a very good softball player.
All because you can solve the Pythagorean theorem.
Well, you make similar triangles. You make a triangle inside the big triangle, and 3 triangles. One inner, one large inner, and then the overall. They're all similar. They all share the same angles. You make ratios and you work it out, and you get c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Not hard. Okay, but the hard one is what happens when the angle is not 90 degrees. Just call it alpha, and it's not 90 degrees. Well, then it's c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine of the angle. And we call that the law of cosines. I call it the generalized Pythagorean theorem because the angle is not 90 degrees. And I actually asked my brother, hey, this is when we were talking. I asked my brother, I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah. It was like 2007. I said, give me a hint, John. And he said, well, do the same thing. You got a triangle, but it's not a 90-degree angle. That's alpha. Just make right angles and make all these little triangles and get ratios and get sines and cosines and work it all together. And you're going to find that the cosine of the angle is really the cosine of the sum of 2 angles. So you got a lot of pieces to put together there. And then at the very end, you say, what's the cosine of this plus that angle? And that's the overall alpha angle. And you got it. So I proved it in 4 different cases. And it's one of the chapters of my book. And it's just fun stuff, but it keeps me sharp, Ron. That's how I got off on this little tangent, which is another mathematical term. I keep sharp. I have a chapter on determinants. Determinants are fascinating. And they're used in calculus when you have a change of variable. It's just like you have a change of variable and you have a change of volume. So what's the new volume and put it in? And it's really fascinating. Sometimes it's a stretch factor. But I'm still working on a book. I made a new chapter in October. And I don't know when I'm going to finish the thing. But I got 47 chapters, Ron. And it's 280 pages. I got some interesting stuff in there. But it's not for your everyday Joe. And I don't think you'd find much value in it because I don't believe you got a foundation of calculus.
I took calculus in high school. It's been a long time.
Well, you were in an advanced placement program then.
I was.
That is a feather in your cap, lad.
I took I had calculus as a senior.
That's good. Did you take more calculus in college?
No, I didn't really need to. I didn't really need to.
What did you major in college?
I was going to go into pharmacy school, and then I was working in pharmacy, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with this. This is this is not healthcare. It's an assembly line of medication for people. Yeah,
it's a dispensary that is an adjunct for big pharma.
Yeah,
where all the agents are called doctors. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to get on.
And I went to after my mom had her stroke, I went with her to her doctor appointment the other day, and to her primary, and he wanted to put her on a statin, and I'm like, yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
No, you can put that prescription pad away, Doc.
Yeah.
Ask him, hey, have you guys taken up yet the cures for cancer, or are you still forbidden to mention ivermectin, fenbendazole, etc., that is part of the right to try bill by President Trump? Are you guys allowed to talk about that, or do you lose your license from your Nazi organization, the American Medical Nazi Organization?
Yeah.
Association. Well, Ron, I need to call quits here.
I do too. I think I said I wanted to go 90 minutes, and we're like 45 over that. So, but it's okay.
Yeah, I realize you're going to compensate me for this.
Yeah, of course.
I got 2 hours 10.
Yeah, I'm seeing 2:15, but that's okay. Whatever.
Yeah. I round down because of the starting gate. Well, this is February. I'm sorry. This is Friday, December 12th.
You're getting me excited. You say February. That means spring training.
Yeah. Because the Dodgers. You did not believe in your Dodgers when we were approaching playoff time.
I did not.
And that was not very impressive. I said to you, they're going to rise to the occasion, and you thought I was full of crap.
Well, you know what? I was. They were not playing well at the end of September.
They didn't have to.
And I was nervous about that. So,
your starting pitchers.
I had good reason to be concerned, but they whatever they did, they put it together.
Your number 4 and 5 pitchers don't pitch much in postseason, and you were smart enough not to let Clayton, what's his face?
Clayton Kershaw. He only pitched to like 2 batters, and it was like in the 18 inning game. I think he pitched in the 12th.
He was lucky.
Yes, he was. Lucky. Yes, he was.
All right. Well, you won the World Series, and I was very happy. I thought about you throughout the entire playoffs and the World Series, but I expected them to do well. What a gorgeous cat.
Oh, yes. This is my boy, Fuchida.
Yeah. The cheetah.
Fuchida. Fuchida was he was the lead pilot when they attacked Pearl Harbor.
Let me see his face. Bring his face up.
Come here, buddy.
Hey, cheetah. Wow. He looks wild. Male?
Yep. Oh yeah.
No, I don't need proof. I just need your word.
Yeah, he's a male.
No need for a demo.
He doesn't drift very far from me. He's like my shadow. I have 6, and if I ever had to, given like a Sophie's Choice situation, he'd be the one that I'd take. So
Sophie's Choice. How many would you be able to keep out of 6 in Sophie's Choice? 3?
I don't know. I have no idea. It would be dependent. It would be dependent on where. If I had to go find someplace to live and I couldn't take all 6, then I'd have to find homes for him.
Yeah,
he'd be the one. He'd be the one that I would take.
Here's a trivial question for you. What happened to Sophie at the end of the movie in Sophie's Choice?
I don't even know. I've never seen it. I never wanted to see it.
You know what Sophie's Choice was?
I know exactly what it was.
She committed suicide.
Yeah, that I don't blame her.
Yeah,
but it's
too much.
I just I don't trust any of that bullshit. It's not real history, and it's propaganda to push a narrative that I don't believe. So I understand,
and I've got some evidence from The Voice, who was German, to back that up. But
yeah.
That's for another day.
Another day, another time. Yes, sir.
All right, thanks for having me on.
Sir. Yeah, and Merry Christmas to you. Are you have any teams you're pulling for in the NFL or the college football playoff?
I don't have a favorite in the NFL, but my Ohio State Buckeyes got outcoached.
I forgot that I even mentioned that. Yeah.
Outcoached. Indiana outcoached them. We showed that we have a Neanderthal offensive coordinator that needs to up his game if we're going to go anywhere in the postseason playoffs, which I think they will do. But let's just say that it was an exercise in Woody Hayes' stupidity for offensive play calling. Hey, we're in the red zone. Let's run up the middle. Yeah. Hey, it's second down. Let's surprise them. Let's do it again. Fourth down. We got 1 yard to go. Let's shock them. Let's shock the shit out of them and run up the middle.
Yeah.
We got the best receivers, perhaps, in the nation. And when we get to the red zone, by virtue of their receptions, we stop passing and we rely on run up the middle to make Woody Hayes happy. I'm telling you, it is one of the biggest frustrations of Ohio State fans, including a couple of very loyal former players. Well, one. Anyway, watch Ohio State have much better play calling. They didn't have to win, so they didn't win. Indiana had a bone to pick. They had motive. They didn't think that they got respect, but Indiana was labeled as not having a serious opponent a lot more than Ohio State was labeled in the same manner.
They won in Ohio State, did they not?
No, they won in Indianapolis, where they do the conference.
Oh, that's right. It was the conference championship game, and it was at a neutral
not
site.
Exactly a home game, but it's in Indiana.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's right next door to. But it's right next door to. I mean, it's not that far from Columbus, so it's like
there were 4 red zone incidents with Ohio State. They got 1 field goal, 1 touchdown, 1 loss on downs, and 1 missed field goal. That is pathetic. My attitude is, if you're in the red zone, first down, you do a play action because it's probably going to think that you're so stupid as to run the ball up the middle, which they often do. And you do a pass. You do a slant, you do a rub route, you do a corner, over the shoulder, you do something innovative. And if it doesn't work, that pass on first down, you do another one. So you got 3 chances to do a pass of 15 yards, and you're bound to have a success. But they had only 1 out of 4 successes, and it was an embarrassment in front of the entire nation.
And you know what? I respect the fact that you think about me when the Dodgers play, but I can't reciprocate that with Ohio State. I'm sorry. I don't care. I have a saying. I wanted 3 years ago to have Ryan Day fired for being uninnovative and just being a good recruiter. That's not enough. And people say, but Jim, he won 10 games. But Jim, he won 11 games. And I say, he could have done better if he had better offensive play calling. You hear that?
Yeah. I heard it purr.
He's always that way. Anyway, I got
some of the best players, some of the best players in the country, and we don't get the most out of them.
Do you know who Timmy Trumpet is?
Pardon
me? So anyway, okay, so yeah, you don't know, but Timmy Trumpet's going to be coming to Dodger Stadium because we signed Edwin Diaz, who's the best closer on the market. So,
who's Timmy Trump? What?
You know what? Well, here,
I'm not hearing you right.
Okay, hold on. Hold on a second. Let me show you something here. You'll let's see here. Since you don't know what I'm talking about, okay, let's see. Let me find one that is. I'll find one that is not long. This is only 50 seconds long, so it will it'll be short.
I have no idea where you're going.
So this is Edwin Diaz, and he's on the Mets. He left the Mets to come to the Dodgers.
I heard about that. Go on.
But here you go.
He's got a Met uniform on, right?
It's the song's supposed to be. Where's the song? Okay, here, let me find this one.
Now Timmy Trumpet takes center stage as Edwin Diaz gets ready to come in looking for a save.
It's actually pretty exciting. I'm not a Mets fan, but I thought this gives me chills.
Little Spanish overtone, Ron.
Oh yeah, he's Puerto Rican. So I'll stop it there. Just give you the taste of. But
okay. So they call that guy Timmy Trumpet.
No, the Timmy Trumpet is the guy who wrote the song. Edwin Diaz is the pitcher, and he's going to be he's
who played the trumpet.
Timmy Trumpet, that's his name.
And that's what I just said. Timmy Trumpet played the trumpet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. That's his name. So that's anyway. It's he's coming to Dodger Stadium. I remember the Eric Gagne days because I was there for that when he would come in. And Dodger fans have this reputation for leaving early, but when Gagne was pitching that year, well, no, people didn't leave. People refused to leave the stadium because they wanted to see Gagne pitch. He set the major league record that'll probably never be broken. He had 84 consecutive saves without a blown save. 84. It was insane. So, but anyway, I'm just my the two worst days in the year for me are the day that baseball the World Series is over and when we turn the clocks back.
I thought it was losing Bauer.
No, I was pissed about that. I'm still pissed about that, actually.
Well, that's got to rank up there more than daylight savings.
I'm talking about. I'm just talking about. I'm talking about every single year. I don't like it when we turn the clocks back, and I don't like. I love baseball. I love to watch baseball. So I tune into some of the the fall, the Arizona fall leagues, and some of the stuff that goes on in the. Down in the Caribbean, stuff like that.
Yeah, I tell you, one time it was August, and we went to Cape Cod. It was a group of about 8 of us, and we rented a house for a week. It was a church group of mine. It was a lot of fun. We went out for dinner, had lobster dinners, and in the evening we went to see the Cape Cod League. We saw Chatham,
nice.
Cape Cod League. Yeah, I tell you, it was fun. That was fun.
That's awesome.
Good play, good quality. All right, Ron, I got to go.
Hey, I got to go too. Jimbo, awesome to see you. Apologize for not responding, but now you understand
that's
why.
Okay, Ron. I give you the benefit of the doubt. Every time you don't respond, you got something big going on.
Anyway, well, hey, very good to see you. Merry Christmas if I don't talk to you before, and look forward to seeing you soon unless something big starts to happen and you want to come back and talk about it. But other than that, I'll see you.
Well, if XRP jumps to $20 before Christmas, got to have me on.
Absolutely. All right. We'll chat soon.
Right, very good.
All right, bye.
Go to my website, sign up for the newsletter, make a donation. Keep me strong. Keep me happy.
golden-jackass.com.
I got a lot of challenges, and I'll talk to you privately, Ron.
Yeah, no worries.
Turn it
All right,
off.
everybody. Have a great day. Enjoy your Friday.